Morning, everybody. This is Dan over at the National Weather Service in Raleigh with today's Thursday weekly briefing. I've got a couple things to talk about, so we'll go ahead and just jump right in. Let's talk about the upcoming weather pattern for the next 7 days across central North Carolina. A couple of a couple maps on the screen there that I want to point out a couple features. Today, we are starting a pretty significant warm up that I'll talk about on the next few slides. Today, dry weather. If you've been outside, it's quite nice, maybe a little bit breezy at times. Quite nice, save for all the pollen and the other allergens in the air. But generally a nice day. We have a cold front you can see on the map in the upper left that's up across the Ohio Valley, stretching into New England. That is going to make a run at our area tomorrow. I don't have a map to show you that, but before that front gets here, it's going to be remarkably warm. We're looking at high temperatures, likely touching records tomorrow. We are looking at the potential for a little bit of rainfall when that front comes through the area. Rainfall amounts aren't really going to amount to a whole lot, maybe 1/10 of an inch, maybe 1/3 of an inch, depending on where you're at. A couple days ago when I did this webinar, we said we had a couple of details we needed to figure out with respect to severe weather potential and timing and things like that. It looks like the front itself and any potential, the front itself is going to move through late Friday afternoon into Friday evening. As such, there's a very limited threat for severe weather, which I'll talk about in a couple of slides. But not looking like a widespread severe weather threat with this front when it moves through the area, which is certainly good news. Also worth noting here, we may end up seeing some adverse fire weather conditions tomorrow and on Saturday. It's been really dry. I think we all know that. Fuel moistures, everything is dry. We haven't had a lot of rain as of late. We're not going to get a lot of rain with this next front when it comes through, and it's going to be quite breezy before that front gets here and then after that front moves through. So those are not good conditions, and we could end up with some fire weather concerns across the area. We don't have any red flag warnings out or increased fire danger statements at this stage of the game, but just keep that in mind that fire weather could be a concern tomorrow and Saturday. When that front moves through, temperatures are going to drop dramatically. So we're going to go from temperatures in the upper 80s, maybe around 90 on Friday, to 30 degrees cooler on Saturday. And because of that, Sunday morning, we may actually have some spots, see some frost, freezing conditions. I'll talk about that here in a minute or two. So it's going to be a remarkable roller coaster ride that we're going to be on over the course of the next 48 hours, 48 to 72 hours. And then not really the best news here, dry weather with a gradual warming trend next week. So not much in the way of relief in terms of rainfall, which we desperately need in some areas, that's for sure. Let's talk about those temperatures here real quick. So we are looking at highs today, generally reaching, the low 80s, around 80, maybe upper 70s if you're up near the Virginia state line. But generally, this is an above normal set of temperatures that you see on the screen there for today. And we're going to add about 8, 9, 10 degrees to that for tomorrow, which you can see on the map on the right. Many spots across North Carolina will have record temperatures tomorrow. The record at RDU, for example, I believe is 87. So we have some strong potential here to break records across the state. Because of that, I did want to throw this graphic on here to talk about the heat risk. I know temperatures in the upper 80s, maybe around 90 are nothing, compared to what we'll see this summer, but this is pretty early in the year for this type of heat to settle in across the area. So if you are somebody or, perhaps work with somebody or interact with somebody who is extremely sensitive to the heat, there could be some potential for some impacts across the area today and again tomorrow. You can see the areas that are highlighted in yellow for today, generally across central North Carolina, maybe portions of western North Carolina, but tomorrow it's much more widespread, right? We had those highs, in the upper 80s or low 90s pretty much everywhere on that map. So that's why you see the shading and the yellow color on the Friday graphic much more widespread, and you can see it's pretty much across the entirety of the southeast tomorrow. Okay, so I had mentioned that front's going to slide through the area tomorrow. No chance of precip today. That's why the map is white. When you look at the colors for tomorrow, with the precip with that front, we're only looking at that second or maybe that third shade of green, depending on where you're at. And even that, again, is maybe a tenth to a third of an inch. Boy, if you're lucky to get 4/10 of an inch, you're going to be doing pretty good. But you don't see a whole abundance of precip really anywhere across the area on Friday. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, dry. So your 5-day total is really what we're going to get tomorrow, and that's about it. Not surprisingly, with that little rainfall, really no threat for flooding. Excessive rainfall outlooks are clean across the area today, tomorrow, and Saturday. So no threats for excessive rainfall there. I did want to touch briefly on the severe weather potential. Clear across the board with the exception for tomorrow. And the only highlighting on here is that first shade of green, which is just a general outlook for thunderstorms across the area. A few are certainly possible when that front comes through. Could there be a brief period of gusty winds? You know, if you happen to be caught under one of the stronger showers or storms, yeah, absolutely, for sure. But widespread severe weather not anticipated at this stage of the game. And then, of course, with dry weather Saturday through at least next Wednesday or Thursday, no threat of severe weather there either. I had mentioned that it's been dry, and this is probably no surprise to anybody. Here's the latest drought outlook, which just came out this morning. The assessment period ended on Tuesday, but bottom line, not a significant amount of change. If you look at the table in the lower right-hand corner, you don't really see major departures. If anything, the area of extreme drought, the D3, the red color that's on the map there, that actually grew just a little bit. Certainly not a good sign. Sadly, as I had pointed out before, you know, that rainfall we're going to get tomorrow is not going to be a drought buster by any stretch of the imagination. And really, with nothing on the horizon until maybe 8 or 9 days from now, conditions are not going to be improving anytime soon. So that's where we're at with the drought. Wanted to at least make sure we pointed that out. And then let's go into the murky, distant future, the 8 to 14 day period here. And it looks like that prolonged period of maybe above normal temperatures, that's going to continue. That's going to remain favorable. That's going to remain the more likely scenario. That's why you start to see some of those real dark shades of red, if not, you know, kind of pinkish almost across portions of the southeast. They're 60 to 70%, maybe even higher in some areas. Odds are heavily tilted toward above normal temperatures for the period April 2 to April 8th. Along those lines too, there's no clear signal for really above, below, or near normal precip across the area. No clear signal that we're going to have a drought buster really at any point during the next 2 weeks based on this information here. So dry and above normal temperatures are probably a safe bet at this point. Let's flip back here and talk briefly about hazards over the course of the next week. Nothing today. All the chiclets here on the chart are clear. When we get into tomorrow, with that front, there could be, like I said, a stray shower or thunderstorm with a little bit of lightning. That's a possibility. That's why that's highlighted in yellow. A little bit of wind ahead of that front, maybe with a stronger shower. That's certainly a possibility. And I'd mentioned the fire weather because it's going to be so breezy. That's why that's highlighted. But those real threats for the fire weather, that really intensifies on Saturday. Yeah, it'll be a lot cooler on Saturday, but it's going to be really dry. Winds are going to be blowing pretty good at times during the day on Saturday. And again, the wind is highlighted there too as well. The frost freeze, that orange block that you see on there is for Saturday night into Sunday, which is the period when we would see temperatures in the, maybe even upper 20s if you're up near the Virginia state line. Generally, probably 30 to 35 is the forecast we're going with at this point for Sunday morning. That is almost certainly going to produce frost or freezing conditions in some areas. I wanted to touch briefly on this. This is a map from the climate office here at NC State, and this is a graphic showing when do we usually see our last freeze in the spring. And if you look at the different colored dots on the map, generally across central North Carolina, it's anywhere from this week into the first week of April. So the fact that we're getting down to freezing Saturday night into Sunday isn't really abnormal. But we are starting to get to the end of the season where freezing temperatures or frost is going to be a regular occurrence. So as such, on April 1st, we are going to resume our frost freeze program across the area. Usually, this time of year, we're not putting out a frost or freeze headline every time we get down to freezing. We'd be doing that every day during the winter. But now that those occurrences are much less likely, we're going to restart our program April 1st. But just be advised, Saturday night into Sunday, we could see some freezing conditions across the area. You won't see a frost or freeze headline for that. You won't see a frost advisory or freeze warning or anything like that. But if you do have sensitive vegetation, anything that you need to take care of that's outside, I know a lot of things are already in bloom. Just keep that in mind. Saturday night, Sunday morning will be quite chilly across the area. All right, let's bring it all home here. Record high temps are likely on Friday. It's going to be warm today, even warmer tomorrow. That's all of ahead of an approaching cold front. Sadly, that front is not really going to bring a whole lot of rain to the area. Maybe a 1/10 of an inch, maybe a 1/3 of an inch if you're very lucky. 4/10 of an inch. Not really much of a threat of severe weather either. That is certainly good news. But boy, it sure would be nice to see a little bit more rainfall across the area. Because of that, and because of how dry it's been, we could have some adverse fire weather conditions Friday and again on Saturday. It's going to be pretty breezy Friday before that front gets here. It's going to be pretty breezy Saturday behind that front. Again, we don't have any red flag warnings or anything of that nature out at the moment, but just keep that in mind. Fire weather, things are dry. I think everybody knows that at this point. I just mentioned the low temps near or below freezing Saturday night into Sunday morning, so be aware of that. And then next week, dry weather. There will be a gradual warming trend. If you look at the temperature graphics and find your city on the table over there, you'll see there is a gradual increase. A bit of a stair step, 3 to 5 degrees every day. Sometimes we have a 10-degree jump going from Sunday to Monday, for example. But a gradual warming trend, right? So the time by next Wednesday, next Thursday, we'll be back in the low to mid 80s across the area, but no real clear signal for any sort of precip. So warm and dry is certainly the rule to live by here, forecast wise into next week.